Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Die trying. That's the only deal worth accepting, not because it guarantees success, but because it ensures dignity. In a world that worships convenience, nothing is more sacred than a soul that refuses to kneel. You don't go all in because it's rational. You don't give your life to the mission because someone promised it would work. You do it because the alternative, living numb, existing sideways, floating in purgatory, is death in disguise. The kind of death that lets you breathe but not burn. Most people survive that way. They get by. They manage, but they never ignite. They don't dare go far enough to fail with honor. They don't dare risk losing it all for something real. But that's the only way to live. You either give it everything or you give it nothing. And if you fall, so be it. Better to die with your grip on the mountain than rot at the bottom wishing you had climbed. People will call it obsession. They'll say you're crazy. They'll whisper that you should slow down, that you should play it safe. But what they're really saying is, don't remind me that I settled. Don't become the thing I could been. Your hunger will offend them. Your pace will exhaust them. And your standards will shame them. But you weren't built to coddle comfort addicts. You were built to confront the limits. And if those limits back, you push harder. If they draw blood, you lick it. If they break you, you rebuild. That's the code. Not because it's glorious, but because it's required. The cost of greatness is everything you used to be. Every illusion, every excuse, every ounce of softness that once told you it's okay to quit. Burn of it. Die trying. You don't get to control the outcome. You only control the intensity. So you dial it up, without waiting for the weather to agree, without asking for clarity, without waiting for applause. There will be days where you question your sanity, where the silence is deafening and the path disappears under your feet. That's the moment that decides everything. Do you stop, or do you advance into the dark, blade-drawn, eyes-locked, heart-numb to the cost? Most fold, most beg for signs. You create the signs, with scars, with actions that scream louder than doubt, because you don't chase success. You declare war on everything that threatens your momentum. That's how you become undeniable. Not by waiting, by waging war until the universe yields or you collapse with your sword buried in the dirt. Either way, you win. You've already lived through worse than this. You've already tasted failure, betrayal, loss. And yet, you're still here, still breathing, still dangerous. So stop acting like you're fragile. You're forged, not manufactured, not imported. Forged in silence, in violence, in heartbreak. And if those flames didn't kill you, why would the next ones? Why would the pressure of this moment crush a soul that's already survived hell? You don't tap out. You don't shrink. You channel everything. The rage, the grief, the loneliness. And pour it into your execution. Let it power your form. Let it sharpen your decisions. Let it remind the world that you didn't come here to ask for permission. You came here to take territory or leave a crater. But either way, you die trying. Legacy doesn't come from comfort. It's built in blood, carved by hands that never let go. Every second you delay, someone else moves. Every moment you hesitate, someone else sharpens. And the world is filled with half-finished giants. People who had the talent but not the tenacity. People who made it halfway and called that victory. But halfway is the enemy, because halfway lulls you into softness. It tells you you've done enough, that you're almost there, and almost is the most dangerous word in the language of fire. You either finish or you don't. There is no medal for effort. There is no applause for potential. Only execution. And the man who executes until his lungs give out, he is the one history remembers, not because he was perfect, but because he refused to leave anything on the table. He died trying. When people look back at your story, make them feel something. Make them pause mid-sentence and whisper, "He kept going." Let your legacy become a warning to mediocrity that it is not welcome here. Your name should be a weight whisper, a name that echoes like a war drum, not a sigh, and you earn that by refusing to negotiate with average. You don't skip the hard days. You don't take shortcuts, you bleed through the boredom. You conquer through repetition. And when you feel the fatigue clawing at your spine, you remember this: you're not done until the ground has your name engraved in it. Until then, every breath is a chance to push. Every hour is another swing at the wall. You don't rest, you reload. Your doubts will scream. Your fears will sing lullabies that sound like logic. They'll tell you've gone far enough, that you should be proud of how much you've grown. But you don't grow to pause. You grow to crush. You grow to expand until there is no version of you left fits inside the cage you started in. So don't listen. Don't relax. The mission isn't over until your work makes time kneel. Until your output becomes a mirror that shames those who chose excuses over execution. You owe that to your future, to the nights you didn't sleep, to the promises you made when the world counted you out. Honor those moments by finishing the war, not halfway, or die trying. There's something poetic about burning out in pursuit of something real, not poetic in the romantic sense, poetic in the brutal sense. The kind that leaves ashes as a blueprint for the next generation. Let them study your wreckage and say, this is what happens when a man refuses to break. Let them sift through your remains and find discipline etched into every bone. You don't want a pretty life, you want a loud one. Loud in purpose, loud in action, loud in defiance. Because silence only serves the comfortable, and you were never meant for silence. You were meant to disrupt, to challenge, to destroy the mold and leave the pieces scattered so no one ever builds it again. That is how you make peace. With a legacy worth dying for, there will be no applause, no finish line with balloons, no perfect moment where the pain stops and the world hands you a trophy. So stop waiting for it, build anyway, bleed anyway. And when the critics come, and they will, let your work speak. Let your eyes say what your mouth won't to you. I gave everything, and if that wasn't enough, I was prepared to give more, because the point was never ease. The point was honor, and there's no greater honor than meeting the edge of your capacity and punching through it with bloody knuckles. That is the code, that is the creed. Die trying. So what's left? Decision, that's all. No more talk, no more plans, no more waiting for the right time. Either you attack your potential with such violence that life itself moves out of your way, or you sit there and fade like all the others who had the spark but never lit the fire. You came here to destroy the average in you. You came here to become immortal through effort. You came here to make your name undeniable. So do it now, with rage, with precision rope backup plans. And if it all falls apart, fine, but you leave no breath behind, no bullet unfired, no excuse untouched. You die trying, you don't live at all. Your brain is a storm, firing off close to 70,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are noise, useless static, leftover commentary from a life half-lived. But if even 10% of that mental energy is focused, even 10% is tethered to a single vision, that becomes your compass, not in some romantic sense, but in a literal neurological, chemical way. The human brain doesn't care if the vision is real. It cares if it's repeated. If you obsessed with precision, if you fixate with intent, your mind will recalibrate its entire pattern recognition system to chase that shape in the fog. That's not hope. That's engineering. You don't need motivation. You need mental gravity, a force so consistent, so magnetic, that every thought eventually bends toward it, light around a black hole. You don't get what you want because you think about it once. You get it because you architect your thoughts to revolve around it daily, hourly, until it's not just an idea, it's your operating system. Want becomes programming. Desire becomes demand. You begin filtering your environment through that lens. You stop asking if things are possible. You start asking if they align. Your mental bandwidth, once fragmented and scattered, begins collapsing into a singular line of attack. That's gravity. That's what turns ordinary effort into inevitable momentum. Your thoughts no longer work against you. They no longer whisper excuses. They report to something greater, a central axis of meaning, a war room where only one command echoes: build or be erased. Mental gravity doesn't come from hype. It comes from pattern. When you think about the same outcome for weeks, months, years, it stops being a fantasy. It becomes familiar, and the mind trusts the familiar. So now you're not battling doubt every morning. You're executing on instinct, because your brain already believes this is where you're supposed to go. Doubt becomes expensive. Distraction becomes foreign. Every thought that doesn't serve the mission feels like noise pollution. You reject it not out of discipline, but out of instinct. That's the edge. You don't fight for motivation. You build an atmosphere where nothing else survives. You terraform your mind so thoroughly, your goals no longer feel like ambition. They feel like breathing. You've been lied to about motivation. They sold you the idea that it's a lightning bolt, that it just shows up and electrifies you into action. It doesn't. Real momentum starts with obsession. Repeated, consistent obsession. Vision so loud that it drowns out alternatives. And once that becomes your default loop, you no longer need willpower. You've restructured your identity. Your thoughts no longer exist to pass the time. They exist to pull you forward. You don't have to scream affirmations into the mirror. Your mind is already speaking in every silent moment, in traffic, in the shower, between conversations. That's how a vision survives, not through noise but frequency. The brain is plastic, neuroplastic, moldable, but most people never mold it intentionally. They let random content, unfiltered input, and emotional debris carve the shape of their mind. Then they wonder why their goals feel foreign, distant, unreachable. It's because their dominant thoughts orbit trivia, not transformation, but you. You hardwire obsession. You pick the outcome that sets your chest on fire, and you feed it daily. Books, notes, conversations, daydreams. Everything loops back to the vision, not passively militant, and over time the brain bends, the orbit tightens, and what was once a wish becomes inevitable. You don't need more energy. You need to reorganize your gravity field. The most dangerous man in any room is the one whose thoughts agree with his mission. He doesn't need a reminder. He doesn't need a break. His mind is a closed loop of execution. That kind of man sees everything as fuel. Every conversation becomes reconnaissance. Every failure becomes blueprints. Every quiet moment becomes strategy. His thoughts don't entertain him. They arm him. He doesn't think about the past unless it sharpens his future. He doesn't think about other people unless they impact the mission. He's ruthless in focus, not because he's cold, but because his mental gravity has no room for excess. And the people around him feel it. Not weakness he brags, but because every word, every glance, every breath has weight. That's what happens when 10% of 70 thoughts orbit one outcome. Motivation fades because it's emotional. Gravity stays because it's structural. You don't wait to feel ready. You build readiness into the code. Your thoughts become instructions, reminders. You set traps for yourself, sticky notes, mantras, morning rituals, night audits. Not because they're trendy, but because every one of them reinforces the gravitational pull. The more you orbit, the heavier the vision becomes. Until backing out isn't just hard, it's unthinkable. Because you've trained your neurons to expect results. The body obeys what the brain believes. And if your brain believes the mission is survival, the body will perform like its life depends on it. That's not motivation, that's design. There's a difference between intensity and gravity. Intensity is loud, flashy. It spikes and crashes. Gravity is silent. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need reminders. It pulls consistently, relentlessly. And the people who win long-term aren't the loudest. They're the ones who designed mental gravity so precise that even their distractions orbit the goal. They don't avoid weakness. They absorb it. They turn breakdowns into codes. Because their vision is too dense to be shaken, every thought is either a vote for the mission or a virus. And when that standard becomes your baseline, life adjusts. Fast, radically, permanently. You're not overwhelmed because life is hard. You're overwhelmed because your thoughts are scattered, because every new goal pulls you in a different direction. Because your orbit is broken. You've been taught to chase everything, likes, attention, feedback. But gravity doesn't chase, it pulls. It centers. It creates a field so intense that everything either aligns or gets expelled. That's the mindset you build when you think like a weapon. You remove any thought that doesn't accelerate the mission. You tighten the orbit until only the essential remains. That's clarity, that's peace, that's power. Pain isn't your enemy, it's your arrival signal. Biologically, neurologically, every weakness is it's no different from the circuitry that lights up when you're building something meaningful. The same region of your brain, the anterior cingulate cortex, fires whether you're grieving a loss or hammering into purpose-driven work. You feel it in your chest like pressure, like ache, like something trying to punch its way out. That isn't dysfunction. That's ignition. That's your soul grinding against the cage of your old patterns, trying to break through. Pain isn't the body warning you to stop. It's the body demanding that you pay attention. That ache in your chest, it means you're touching something real. And real is rare. Real is expensive. Real is why most people quit before they start. Because truth has weight, and pain is how you know you're finally carrying it. We've been taught to silence, to numb it, distract it, smother it in vice and call it recovery. But what if pain was the instruction manual? What if the burn in your chest, the pressure behind your eyes, the dull hum of unrest in your bones, that was the map? You don't get that from comfort. You don't get that from synthetic dopamine and surface-level goals. That only comes when you dig your hands into the mess of your life and start rearranging the wreckage into architecture. Purpose doesn't feel like bliss. Purpose feels like pressure, like friction. Like you're climbing something that wants to kill you, but you climb anyway. Because your body recognizes the climb. Because that neural signature, that burn, tells you you're close. That's not weakness. That's alignment. That's the signal that the path you're on matters enough to hurt. The anterior cingulate cortex isn't just some vague brain region. It's the switchboard between pain and effort, emotion and intention. It's the GPS of your meaning-making system. And when it lights up, when you feel that inner compression, it's because your brain is preparing to change. Not theoretically, not poetically, functionally. And change, real change, carries pain as a prerequisite. You're not supposed to feel fine when stepping into a new identity. You're supposed to grieve the old one. That ache in your chest, that's not damage, that's departure. That's your nervous system realizing you're no longer orbiting the same identity. That ache is mourning everything you've outgrown. That's not a sign to turn around. That's a sign to go harder. You've confused pain with injury. But they're not the same. Injury is your system breaking under something it wasn't built for. Pain is your system expanding into something it hasn't yet become. When you train with purpose, when you work with fire, when you act with intent, your brain doesn't whisper, it burns. And that burn is identical to loss, to failure, to heartbreak, because it is a loss of comfort, a loss of control, a loss of who you used to be. And in that space of loss, you meet the real version of yourself, not the polished one, the one you've hidden under expectations and applause, the one who doesn't need likes or affirmations, just direction, just heat, just that ache in the chest that says, this matters, don't you dare look away. The mind wants ease, the body wants routine, but purpose wants resistance, and resistance is pain with a goal. You'll feel like you're dying, But what's actually dying is the lie. The lie that you were meant for small things. The lie that you can live numb and still matter. The lie that peace can be bought without sacrifice. That ache is the lie burning off your skin. That tightness is the moment of transformation. You either breathe through it and move, or you run. And if you run, the pain doesn't calcify, turns inward, becomes anxiety, regret, confusion. But if you stay, if you lean into it and say, "Show me," the pain evolves. It becomes clarity, becomes instinct, becomes a tool instead of a trap. You've never really trusted pain. You've always thought it meant stop, that you did something wrong. But the truth is, the most honest things in your life have come wrapped in pain. Growth, love, discipline, grief. Every one of them carries that same weight in the chest, that same fire behind the ribs. That's because truth is heavy. And every time you carry more of it, your body needs to adjust. So when your chest tightens during deep work, during transformation, during purpose, you're not malfunction, you're evolving. Your nervous system is calibrating to a new load. You are expanding into someone with higher standards, bigger weapons, deeper war cries. That pressure, that's your body stepping into command. You need to stop asking for signs. The H is the sign. That tension in your gut when you write what's honest, when you lift what's hard. When you stand where you used to fall, that's the mark. That's the neural stamp saying, yes, this is the path. Stop looking for the lightning bolt. You are the lightning bolt. You just forgot how it felt to burn. You thought progress would be elegant, that success would feel clean. But evolution is messy, it's brutal. And the only men who make it are the ones who understand that pain is the toll booth you pass on the road to everything worthwhile. You don't escape it, you earn through it. Let them call it masochism. Let them say you're addicted to suffering. They don't understand. You're not chasing pain. You're reading it. You're using it like radar. Because pain never lies. Pain tells you when you're wasting time. Pain tells you when you're on the edge of something new. It's the only voice that doesn't care about your comfort. Only your calling. And when you learn to listen to it, you stop avoiding hard things. You start hunting them. Not because you enjoy the suffering, but because you recognize the pattern. Every time your chest burns, you come back different, sharper, lighter, real. You want to know why you're still stuck, because you keep retreating from the ache. You keep mislabeling the signal. A knife, that pressure in your body isn't breakdown. You keep trying to numb it, avoid it, outthink it. But it's not there to be solved, it's there to be used. It's the most honest compass you have. And until you learn to trust that, you'll keep circling safe spaces, wondering why nothing feels real anymore. Safe doesn't sharpen. Comfortable doesn't cut. Only pain does. And that H in your chest, that's the knife, reminding you go deeper or go home. All hero myths end in death or sacrifice. That's the cost. That's the law. You don't get the fire without being willing to burn. Weakness is a knife. You don't get to wear the title unless you've bled through the transformation. The world doesn't need more dreamers. It needs those who are willing to die, not physically but symbolically. The old self must go. The soft self must go. The version of you that stalls, that overthinks, that clings to comfort like a lifeline. That version has to be offered on the altar of your evolution. You want to be your own hero, then kill your past self with discipline. Drown your laziness in focus. Tear the excuses from your spine and walk forward without them. Because trying and failing is the plot. It's the exact script the greats followed. No shortcut, no detour, just fire, failure, and finally form. The moment you take responsibility for your own legend, you inherit the weight of sacrifice. You want freedom, but freedom without sacrifice is theft, and the universe won't hand you stolen crowns. You must earn them, with action, with war, with a repeated willingness to let parts of you die so something sharper can take its place. Every day you hesitate, the weaker version of you survives. Every day you delay, you reinforce the coward. You feed the imposter, and he gets louder and louder, until your head is a courtroom where your ambition is always on trial. The only way to silence him is to bury him beneath a new standard. Not once, but daily. Because becoming the hero of your own life isn't a transformation, it's a slaughter. You build by burying. The world romanticizes heroes, but forgets they all suffer first. Every hero's journey begins with fracture. Something breaks, something goes missing, and the rest of the story is about the climb back, through pain, through isolation, through loss. Heroes don't rise because they were chosen. They rise because they kept moving after being shattered. You're not meant to be whole at the start. You're meant to be fractured and furious. You're meant to fail and continue. Trying and failing isn't failure. It's the only proof that you're still in the fight. And if you're still in the fight, you're still becoming. You don't earn legend status by getting it right. You earn it by refusing to stop when everything goes wrong. There's a moment in every myth where the hero faces himself. No dragons, no armies, just a mirror. That's the real fight.